games of the year of the last decade. It's that time of the year again, the time of Game of the Year rankings popping up all around the internet. As we get ready for a bunch of 2017 games to get their Game of the Year editions, complete with all the DLC, updates, art books, and soundtracks, let's take a look at the games chosen as the best of the past 10 years. Since every other gaming-related media outlet is keen to make their own Game of the Year ranking, in the making of this list we have chosen to consider 5 fairly prestigious and established sources, namely BAFTA Interactive Entertainment Awards, Golden Joystick Awards, Eurogamer, IGN, and of course Metacritic, because you can't really talk about game rankings without mentioning it, can you? In some cases, we also used their Reader's Choice Awards to help us break ties. So without further ado, let's find out which games were considered the most notable each year, starting in the distant past of 2007. 2007, Super Mario Galaxy. In the year 2007, Super Mario Galaxy crushed its competition, getting twice as many votes of both editorial lists and Reader's Choice as, say, BioShock. It seems nobody can resist the mustache. The title is a little bit of a misnomer, since Mario's exploits are actually intergalactic in nature, not confined to just one galaxy. Super Mario Galaxy has the Red Cloud Plumber hop around tiny planets, doing what Mario does best: jump, collect coins, stomp on the heads of lesser creatures, all in a colorful, creative, and friendly game, not without some challenge. A Nintendo classic given 3D form, and mechanics which make good use of it. 2008, Fallout 3. Fallout 3 marks the first Fallout game developed by Bethesda, who acquired the franchise from Interplay Entertainment. Released a full 10 years after the last core entry to the series, it traded isometric camera for a first/third-person view and dynamic action, allowing for a more immersive, down-to-earth view of the wastelands. Bethesda did a great job mixing RPG and FPS elements of the game, and one of the examples is the bat system, allowing you to stop time and aim at a specific body part of your enemy, which is a nod to the previous turn-based Fallouts and quite the innovation in the FPS genre. The game offers a vast open world, think Skyrim-size map, and freedom to ignore the main quest forever, as well as a choice-driven story that will strike home for anyone familiar with parental failures. Since we're talking Game of the Year editions here, let's not forget about the amazing DLCs. Point Lookout will scare even the most hardcore horror fans. The Pit adds an atmospheric plot expansion, and Operation Anchorage pays homage to the Fallout roots and will give all newcomers to the series an overview of the war to end all wars that turned the world into a post-nuclear wasteland. And for all music fans, the Pip-Boy Radio offers what many consider to be the best soundtrack of the entire series, with a great selection of classic mid-20th century bits. 2009, Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. At the time of its release, Uncharted 2 Among Thieves was praised as one of the best games of all time and a milestone for the game industry. It also helped to cement Nathan Drake's status as one of the iconic video game characters for the new generation, and a worthy competitor for the adventurer throne alongside Lara Croft. It doesn't hurt that he was dubbed by Nolan North, a man of incredible voice acting talent, who lent Nathan a lot of credibility and roguish charm.
Where did you find this guy?
And for all you PC gamers who doubt the power of Uncharted, consider that the rebooted Lara Croft incorporated the set pieces in careful pace, which made Uncharted into such a cinematic and energetic experience. 2010, Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 2 was a smash hit in 2010, and is considered by many the best part of the series. It diverged quite strongly from the first installment, going almost head-on towards third-person shooter territory. Its linear levels and limited progression didn't make the game any less fun though. The great plot, intense missions, and well-placed scripted moments give us some of the best moments in gaming history. Let's not forget about the characters. This is the meat of any BioWare game, and Mass Effect 2 does not disappoint, bringing back some of the beloved characters from the first game, as well as introducing memorable new recruits with rich backstories and individual agendas whom you could befriend, antagonize, or smooch. Yep. Following the controversy surrounding space lesbians in the first installment, the sequel unleashed full force of alien-on-human romance, with some of the best written and emotionally impactful relationships in gaming. 2011, Portal 2. Portal 2 takes everything that was great about Portal and does it on a grander scale, without being repetitive. More plot, where you learn the quite tragic backstory of GLaDOS and the Aperture Corporation. more passive-aggressive abuse hurled at you by your AI overseer, and some new wacky characters alternating between helpful and murderous. Dark humor makes its return, but this time even darker and even funnier. The game also adds new physics-based mechanics, adding more complexity to the portal-based puzzles known from the first game. Also, space. And let's not forget about the co-op campaign, featuring wacky antics of two bumbling robots. Two heads thinking with portals are better than one, and screwing your co-op friend over in the middle of a level is always fun for at least one person. 2012, tie between The Walking Dead and Dishonored. The Walking Dead turned a relatively obscure game studio into the epitome of emotionally impactful, story-heavy, choice-driven adventure games. The story of a convicted criminal and a little girl trying to survive together in a zombie-calyptic setting will break your heart time and time again. The game is not afraid to change its own status quo and kill off a bunch of main characters as a result of your decisions, destroying you emotionally in the process. Fans of The Walking Dead comics and TV show will be happy to see some of the beloved characters of the series pop up every now and then, but Telltale The Walking Dead is its own story and can be played without any previous knowledge of the universe. Similar to The Walking Dead, Dishonored can be considered a breakout title for its developer, Arcane Studios. It's also similar in that it tells the story of a rugged middle-aged man playing the role of a father figure to a young innocent girl. The similarities end here though, as in this case, the man is a royal bodyguard framed for assassination of an empress, and the girl is an heiress to said empress. Dishonored can be described as a goal-oriented playground, allowing you to play with your arcane assassin superpowers within the game's physics and logic. Unlike many other games, Dishonored had no canned animations or scripts responsible for representing your powers. No immersion-breaking half cutscenes, no press E to something. For instance, crossbows and guns shoot actual projectiles, which you could pick up mid-air when you stop time with Time Band, or push away with Wind Blast. The most important power, however? Passive invisibility while leaning from behind cover. 2013, The Last of Us. Continuing with the shambling, decayed theme, let's talk about The Last of Us. Meet Joel and Ellie. One is a jaded middle-aged man who lost too much. The other is a slightly less jaded teenage girl who lost too much, and also happens to be immune to the zombie plague which destroyed a good portion of, at the very least, North America. She starts out as a nuisance to the main character, but in line with gaming's beloved motif, effectively becomes his substitute daughter. Both are capable of surviving for a bit, but Ellie has a significant advantage over old man Joel. She can use a knife without it breaking every time. Jokes aside, due to good level design, exceptional writing, and excellent performances from voice actors Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson, becoming invested in the story of the unlikely duo comes almost naturally. And that ending, which probably was spoiled to you by the internet already, but we won't take our chances. Check The Last of Us out if you have a chance, especially with the sequel coming out at one point in the future. 2014, Dragon Age Inquisition. The criticism of Dragon Age 2 has been heard, and Dragon Age Inquisition fixes many of its predecessors' missteps. Instead of repetitive locations set around one city, we get a vast, open world with gorgeous and distinctive locations, populated by diverse characters and varied enemies. Story-wise, the game reintroduces high-level politics and high stakes, unlike the street-level problems faced by Hawke. It definitely brings epic back. Moreover, it has some truly memorable missions, including a spectacular ballroom crime/spy story, the conclusion of which may leave you loudly applauding your character. In general, Dragon Age Inquisition has the feel of a lighthearted but defined tabletop RPG campaign, complete with interesting and occasionally quite ridiculous characters. Also, the coolest dragons in recent memory. 2015, The Witcher 3: Wild Hunt. The epic conclusion to the Witcher trilogy, this installment can also be played without any previous knowledge of the universe. This game is so universally acclaimed and beloved by gamers that it became the measuring stick for almost all new open-world games and RPGs. Follows the story of the Witcher Geralt, a monster hunter protecting humanity that despises him, on his epic quest to find his substitute daughter and assist her in the fight against the eponymous Wild Hunt. In the process, he gets swept into political intrigue, guerrilla fight against an oppressive regime, pacts with malevolent supernatural beings, and possibly a gambling addiction. The world of the game is what an open world should be, populated with characters seemingly living their own lives, with a great balance of main quest versus random encounters and well-designed side quest. The Game of the Year edition also comes with two large expansions, Heart of Stone and Blood and Wine, which added spectacular quest lines, a full new region probably rivaling the main game's Velen, and additional mechanics to give progression a twist. 2016, Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. Nathan Drake made it to this list for a second time. Uncharted 4 turned out to be a magnificent game and a worthy closure of the roguish treasure hunter's adventures. The game revolves around the return of Nathan's long-lost brother, who somehow managed to survive death by origin story. The vocal performances were also a huge boon, including Nolan North returning for the role of Nathan, Troy Baker as Nathan's brother Sam, and Laura Bailey as Nadine Ross, characters we've met again in this year's Uncharted Lost Legacy. 2017, TBD. For obvious reasons, we don't know the winner for this year. It doesn't stop us from trying to speculate a little bit though, especially since we've been having a really good year this year. One obvious contender is, obviously, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, the game you can't get away from if you read any media outlets. It's truly The Witcher 3 of 2017 in this respect. While it's definitely not the first Battle Royale game, it's definitely the most popular one, with nearly 10 million owners and almost a million concurrent players daily. An FPS which managed to dethrone CSGO is definitely worthy of attention. Another option might be The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild for Switch. The return to Hyrule was met with universal critical acclaim. It's a visually stunning game, with a lot of fun to be had even outside of doing what the plot demands. Then there's Prey, keeping you on your feet thanks to the paranoia-inducing mimics. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, with its amazing depiction of mental illness, and Horizon Zero Dawn, which for many was the reason to invest in a PlayStation 4. What we're saying is, this year's choice is not going to be easy. What do you think about each year's Game of the Year? Do you agree with the choices, or do you think some of the games stole the title from a more deserving contender? What are your picks for 2017's Game of the Year? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for a regular dose of gaming inspiration.